The Rebel Meetup Group was founded in 2013 as a space for us all to kind of join in for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs to share ideas and to be inspired. So I'd like to introduce today's speaker then to hopefully give us some inspiration. This is Pedro. Everybody welcome Pedro.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, oh God, it's messed up. But we're going to be learning about Pedro's story today. But if you have any questions, we're going to have a question session afterwards. So let's have the campside chat. So Pedro, start by introducing yourself. Who are you?
So hello everybody, my name is Pedro and I have like a very mixed background. We can get into that in a second, but yeah, so I am the founder of a business called Compler, which is basically a coaching program, career program for aspiring leaders or current leaders in the visual effects space. And I'm about to launch a new business called Vox Brand, which is a completely different business that has to do with AI regarding personal branding, and we are on testing phase, so that will be out very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
And on top of that, I also do some business coaching, which is basically how I met Rebel. Not how we met.
Well,
we end up like working together.
We actually met in a co-working space. So we met because we sat next to each other, started up a conversation, and I was absolutely inspired by his story, which I'm about to ask some more questions of. And he actually is my business mentor now. So he's actually helping take my business to the next level, which is super incredible. And I was super privileged to be able to interview him today. So let's start with, you had a job in visual effects, and what kind of happened to your 9-to-5 job, or maybe even more hours than that, to now doing your own thing? Talk about that transition.
So there was actually more than one transition, as you probably know, right? So my actual background is mechanical engineering. So that was my degree in college back in Portugal, and I just started working as an engineer for about 3 years. And by the second year, I think about that time, I was like, I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life, for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pursue my dreams. I wanted to be in music at that time, and I wanted to become a music producer. And so at that time, what I did was, okay, I'm just going to work one last year as an engineer. I'm going to cash in as much as possible. So I'm going to, I took a contract in Africa for a while. I worked there for 1 year and something. And with just, the focus of, I'm going to be here 1 year. By December, I'm going to go out. And everybody at that time was like, oh, that's what you say now, but after you're earning money and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you watch me. And that's exactly what I did. So by December of, I don't know what was the year at the moment I left. And at that time, my goal, as I was saying before, was to pursue music as a music producer. So that's exactly what took me here to London. And at that time, me and my girlfriend, now wife, she always also wanted to change her life, to do something different. And at that time, she wanted to pursue or learn more about the 3D visualization of her designs, because she's a product designer. And basically, the two of us, we came to London exactly with those goals. And because at that time, still to this day, there's a big market in visual effects, she ended up working in visual effects. And during that time, she was basically asking me, what do you think about this, or this image, or these things that I'm putting together? And I was like, what about you change this, or what about you change that? And then I said to her, look, I don't know the software that you're using, just tell me the button or the slide that I need to change this or that. And then through that process, I learned that that thinking and that way of going about problems and solving problems had a lot to do with mechanical engineering, and also to do with a lot to do with music mixing, which was my focus as a music producer as well. And so what I did was, I was not really happy with the music scene in London, because the money was not great, by the way, at that time, still to this day. And so what I did was, okay, I'm going to give myself like 3 months to just study by myself, no expectations whatsoever, but I don't know what this will turn out to be. And that's what I did. So during that time, no breaks, 16 hours a day, no weekends, no bank holidays, nothing, because I can be focused like that. And then after a while, because we already had some people in the business meaning visual effects, I met someone that say, look, we are taking some interns if you want to send your stuff. I said, all right. I actually just put something together so I can send that to you. And then I think like in a few days, she called me for an interview and I ended up having that job. And that ended up being my life for the next 12 years. And
wow,
my
12
career,
years.
yeah, 12 years, yes. I think it was 12 years, yeah. And to my surprise, my career in visual effects took off like really quickly. Potentially because, or maybe because I had like a very different background from the norm, because I didn't come from that kind of world. I'm not an artist per se. I have a strong artistic background thing in me, but I think I'm more a technical artist, if you will, which visual effects seem to work really well for me. And there's a lot to do with, technicalities around engineering and all that kind of stuff as well. And so my career took off really quickly. In about 2 years, I became like the top of my discipline, which normally this happens when people have like around 10 years. Some people that have even more time, more time of experience, they don't even reach there for many different reasons. It doesn't matter. But that's answering your question now. When COVID happened, we all lost our jobs, right? Because all productions were put like on hold.
So
right?
not what was the thing called that you got paid by the companies? You like lost your job, like let go.
Yeah. I mean, there were furloughs. That's what.
Furlough,
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that was a bit of that.
And you had a child at the time too, didn't you?
I had the 4-year-old, yes.
Yeah. Both of you lost your jobs then because you were in the same industry?
Yeah, me and my wife. No, my wife was, one thing that I skipped. So when I got into visual effects, that was exactly the time when my wife got out of visual effects. So she didn't like it, so she got out, I got in. That's basically what happened. So she ended up moving into design, which was all this her thing anyway. So she worked as a UX designer for ever since, yeah. But yeah, so at that time we had a 4-year-old. I think he was 4 years old at that time. We lost our jobs like most people, and everybody has their COVID story, right? So our story was our story, I guess. But that was the moment in which we got into business, because for a few years I spotted like a big gap in that market, which was for people that want to move into leadership roles or people that are already in leadership roles, but independently of you want to get there or you're already there, there's no training. So people come from with that artistic mindset, which is, needed. But if you are now managing people, it's a different game, right? So most people don't have that mentality, and that's why all productions tend to be very costly on the human side of things. A lot of overtime, a lot of pressure. In many different ways, and so people end up like burning out a lot of times. They're not treated in the best ways most of the times either. And so for a few years I was spotting this problem, and I decided to do something for myself just to not forget like some of the techniques that I've developed myself. And so when that happened, I was like, okay, we're gonna put this together as a program. And see what happens.
So these are all your notes, like almost for yourself, right?
That was
Just
a book
keep
that I
track.
wanted to do for myself, so I wouldn't forget some of the techniques that I invented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you made this massive list, massive book almost, of all the things, all of the notes
Not
that you
the
wanted
book,
to
just the
keep.
index.
Just the index.
Because when I put the index together, I realized no way in hell I'm gonna write a book about this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that was enough for me for the purpose of what I wanted to write that book. For me, that was enough for what the intention was, which was do not forget about this or remember about that, And so that's what I took to basically start the program.
Yeah. So it was almost like you had to lose your job, make this for yourself so you didn't lose all of your skills and the things that you invented and stuff. And now you have an index, a list of like cheat codes almost for your industry. How did you turn this, or where did you realize that people were going to pay for that?
I didn't realize that like that. I realized that later. Because at that time, one thing, and I think that's an important thing also in business, you might have like this idea about this, or it would be cool to build that, right? But until you really believe that thing can really be a thing, it will never happen. It might happen for a while. It might happen, you might do some certain things, but until you really have like a genuine belief, it's going to be really hard, depending on the type of business and depending like whether or not like the type of support that you also have. And at that time, for whatever reason, and I think the reason was for me at that time was the fact that the entire world, not just this continent, not just this side of the world, not just this country, the entire world was in the same position. Everybody was on pause mode, right? So for me, it was like I had this unshakable belief that this could work, and that's why we end up like doing things that, honestly, looking back, as we had many conversations about this, I don't think it was possible, because we end up like transitioning from one country to another with a 4-year-old, changing countries, changing temporarily, changing schools for him. At the same time, building a community. We were putting a YouTube channel to build our community, which ended up being some of our future clients. And we did this like every single week with guests, because the show on the YouTube was a very specific show every single week. And so, yeah, it was a crazy time. Honestly, today, looking back, I don't know how it was possible. But I think it was due to the fact that I had this unshakable belief. And when you are on that mode, you're gonna do things that you don't know that you'll be capable of, honestly.
I want to fast forward a little bit and give the audience a bit of context as to where you are today with with Complex specifically. So how many countries of people?
We sell all around the world. How many people? Maybe like 200 and something throughout throughout the.
And it's like a premium leadership course.
Yeah, we turn down like most of the people that apply.
So you have to apply to get onto this course. You have to meet certain criteria, whether that be as an individual, your career aspirations, and also financial goals as well, to be able to be eligible for this course. And then also your kind of the rate of people who get promoted after they take this course is really high as well. So it's like a really high caliber.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. The most important thing that any business owner wants for their clients is for them to achieve the results that they sign up for, right? Independently of what the type of business we're talking about, right? And so we take that very seriously. And because what we have to offer is something so specific, which is for people that have been doing this for many years. We're talking about 5, 10, 15, sometimes even more years. So we're not talking about kids, right? So we're talking about very experienced people in their field. So what we want is for them to at last get the results, right? Because they've been trying to do this on their own for so long. And so that's why we need to take into account, like, how long they've been working, what type of productions they've been working on, what things that have they tried before, and the level of experience that they have as well. So we can basically make sure that we can provide the results, because the way that we deal with the things that we provide to them is from a certain threshold. And so we take like a lot of assumptions, so it wouldn't work for everybody because of that reason.
And that also guarantees almost like your success on the other end, because you make sure that the right people are in your course.
A lot of people that worked with us, I'm not going to say 100% because I don't know, but a lot of people that worked with us, they got the results. Yeah.
That's great. And you also have an ongoing community of these people all over the world as well, is that right?
Yeah. So it was actually very funny, because in the beginning, we ended up like creating like it was the first, we don't do cohorts anymore, but we did it for, I think for the first year. And the first cohort was really special because people really connected and developed friendships. And I remember a story right now in which someone ended up moving to Wellington to work in New Zealand, yeah. And because she had met someone in the program, she ended up inviting her to join her, and they ended up winning the Oscar for Avatar together. Yeah.
Oh my God, the Oscar for Avatar.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Part of the team, not
yeah,
personally.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you briefly touched on some of the things that you're like, what you did was crazy. And I know the story, but I don't think people really understand the kind of hole that you went into to develop this in like a really tight frame. And we could talk about that, but otherwise, I guess you could talk about some of the lessons that you learned in that you've now carried on to your future businesses as well.
I mean, so many lessons. I think you only learn when you start failing, honestly. We had sort of like an inverted kind of trajectory, because we found success like really like from the get-go. Because I think looking back, we did like a lot of things right.
Accidentally, I remember you telling me.
Yeah, for like a better word. I think, so to explore a little bit more about like what accidentally really means, I think it had to do with like all the things that over the years I was, collecting without really, like on the subconscious level, without really realizing that I was building like, okay, you do this way, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, this connects, this doesn't connect, this, you know what I mean? This works, it doesn't work. And so we end up like doing like a lot of things well. For example, creating an interest list, creating a community, creating the right price point without being cheap. When you don't know whether or not people will pay for something like that, right? Creating early birds. So we all know about these things, but it's one thing like you hearing, the other thing is like building something cohesive that makes sense. And so we end up like, we did pre-sales as well, which was something that, I don't know where I saw that, to be honest. Probably saw somewhere, I'm sure. But we end up like doing pre-sales for just like a month and a half, and from nothing we collected like 80K.
Wow.
Yeah.
So before you had even really launched the product, you already done your pre-sales to 80K.
US, so about 70 pounds, 70K.
That's impressive. So you knew at that point, before you even launched, by all of that pre-sale hard work, that you had something that was an actual business.
Until you have people paying you, you don't know.
Yeah.
That's just a reality, right? So one of the things that we did, and I don't advise people to do, is to have everything ready before launching. Because you might put like a lot of effort, can be 3 months, can be 6 months, can be 1 year, and you are very eager to sell and you really believe in your idea, but you might not sell, right? So you put like all this effort into something that you don't know. So the best thing is to do pre-sales before you actually have, you might have like the beginnings of it, but having the whole thing, I don't think it's something that I wouldn't advise. It worked well for us, but I think it was just like, we had some luck, which is part of the game, of course. We did also, to mitigate that risk, we did user interviews as well with some people from the industry that I knew. So we ended up like interviewing some of them, going through the sections of the program, you know, asking them whether or not, it was sort of like a blind interview. We didn't know exactly what it was, but we tested pricing, for example. We tested like modules, we tested, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. So we want to mitigate the risk as much as possible. But the reality is until you launch, you don't know.
Yeah. So this was a big thing, going from your 9-to-5 job, losing your job, to now investing quite a lot of time in building something that you weren't even sure was going to work, pre-saling it, realizing it was a great idea, full-time. You never went back into 9-to-5 after that, did you?
I did.
You did?
I did, not because I needed to, it's just because I was still in that mode of...
need to get a 9-to-5.
I need to... It was never 9-to-5, by the way. It was maybe 9-to-10.
Yeah, of course.
9-to-10, like more than 12 hours most of the times, which is stupid looking back, honestly, because I didn't need it, because we, you know, from a financial point of view, we didn't need it, and also we were in Portugal with our families, with our kid at that time, but my mind was always here in London.
Yeah.
I cannot explain it, honestly. I just wanted to get out, you know.
So I guess that kind of takes us to where you are now in the journey. So just to recap, you, like about the original business that you built, which was Complex, you kind of built it for yourself as a list of all the things that you needed to keep memory of. And then now going through that entrepreneur's journey, you've also almost kept a list of all the things that worked well and scrapped all the things that didn't work well in this journey. And I guess that introduced me into your life and how we met. So I remember hearing about your journey, and you were giving me all these really small tips about like, hey, Rebel, do you know you have a thing? And I was like, have I got a thing? Yeah, you know, people listen to you. I hear you on calls all day. Probably shouldn't go to a phone booth. I hear you on calls all day.
I'm next to you, so I can help you.
I hear you on calls all day. You're kind of you do a bit of this, don't you? I was like, yeah, I do a bit of that and a bit of that. You know that people will probably learn from that. I was like, what are you talking about? And then you were telling me things that worked and things that didn't. And I talk about mentorship a lot in like my own journey, and I've always said like it's a super beneficial thing for me. And then I kind of seeked you out, and you're my first actual professional mentor, like my like system, like setup, like whole organized mentor. And talk about like what you're building or what you've built now, which I'm not sure if you built it specifically for me, but I feel like you did. So
yeah.
I'm going to take credit.
It started with you.
Yeah,
it started
it did.
with you. Yeah. So just to give a little bit of context, I ended up like signing Rebel as my first client as a business coach, which was something that I wanted to do, but I never put any pressure. I never did anything to get my first client, so it was very organic in the way that it happened. And I'm glad that it happened because I think that's something that I know that I can help a lot of people with a lot of my past careers, with a lot of the things that I learned throughout my journey. And I was also mentored by, big names in this space. And so it's something that I wanted to do, and I'm glad I did it with you because, it made everything really smooth because we know each other. I know exactly what I wanted to do. And although I didn't do exactly for you, but I had you as my persona when I was building it, which I'm still like in the final phases of, which will always be final phases because there's all these things that I'm going to add and take out and substitute and whatever. But yeah, so basically that's how it happened. Yeah.
And Monica, who is Pedro's wife, was our speaker last month. And for anybody who didn't attend, I just wanted to ask if you could briefly touch on what that is, because you are a collective unit of entrepreneurial couples who just won't stop at anything, and we have some more in the room as well. So if you want to just touch on what Vox Brand is.
Yeah. So the new business is called Vox Brand, and it's a completely different business. We started with this idea about maybe 6 months, actually more, but actively around 6 months. And so this was born due to the fact that we have a very streamlined operation in our business. It's very hands-off. I have this mechanical engineering background, so that comes natural to me. So it's very hands-off in terms of all the operations. So from the outside perspective, it seems like we have a lot of people working in these things and replying to emails and SMSs and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it is very automated. We are, of course, involved, but not in that way, on a daily, on every single detail of it. And so what we were thinking was, okay, we have such a big, well-oiled machine here. Maybe you can take some of these systems to do something solo, its own product almost. So we took something from marketing, we rejigged it, and that's basically how the idea of Vox Brand was born, which basically is an AI SaaS platform regarding personal branding. So we all know that we all need to work on our personal brand, right? Especially these days, to get out of the ads and all that kind of stuff. Although, of course, it's something that it's being done, and of course, it's going to continue. But because there's so many things out there, people connect more with the person that is behind a certain brand, right? For example, nobody knows who's behind Tesco, right? But everybody knows who's behind Virgin, right? Mm-hmm. That's the sort of thing. So personal branding is going to be more and more and more important because there's so much things out there. So people need to connect with someone else's story. Why did they build what they build? Why, what did they buy from you as opposed to your competitors? It's because of you. It's not because of the product. Product is important, very important, but that comes second, right? Because the person is the first part that connects. So in order for us to build our personal brand, what happens is, you need to, first of all, know how to write, which is not for everybody, but let's say that everybody knows how to write about themselves. But then it's about themselves, then it's about their clients, and it's about what type of funnel is it? Are you talking about? This top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. If you don't know what this is, if you have questions, you can ask me. But then when you are trying to sell something, which normally is how or why you want to develop your personal brand, you need to be very specific on who you are selling it to. Because if you're selling to everybody, you're selling to no one, right? So you need to be very specific on that. And then if you need to do that by yourself, and pairing that with photos, with pictures, with just text, with videos, all that kind of stuff, it becomes sort of like an impossible task, right? To manage in multiple platforms, by the way. So what we had in our system was an automated, semi-automated system that we rejigged it, so it's going to be easier for everybody to basically put their voice out there, that it's them speaking to their ICP. ICP, for those of you that don't know what this is basically ideal customer profile. And so it basically do the heavy lifting for you on all the social medias because all of them work in a different way, knowing everything about you, your story, your ICP, your interviews, all of that kind of stuff, and it does the heavy lifting. And Rebel was one of the first ones to test our prototype. So you are actually one of the reasons why we decided, okay, let's go for the build.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So I'm really your success story, actually. I thought this was the other way around.
Yeah, you are.
Great. So I actually was able to be part of the testing for that particular software, and I saw a lot of value in it as somebody who's trying to build my own thing, and I have my own company, and then trying to build, like Pedro said, the personal brand as to why would somebody hire me versus another organization. And I realized through the mentorship as well that it was actually me and my story. And I went on this really interesting journey that I didn't realize I had a story to tell, which I think is the thing that Monica says a lot is everybody has a story. It's just like learning how to tell it. So being part of that program and then using the interface, I realized that I was able to build my personal brand. And I was a great user case because I started from zero. I didn't post a single thing on LinkedIn like ever. And I went from 0 impressions to about 4,500 impressions within 4 weeks. And it was about the consistent posting, making sure that it knew what I was talking about, who I was, what it was part of. And it was talking as if it was me, which I was really shocked at because I obviously fed in things that I'd written before or the way that I talk, and I'm quite a loud, blunt person. So I was nervous to see how the AI was going to talk like me, but it understood and it was consistently learning from that information. And it was super interesting that I actually accidentally had 2 people. I already have a client, a quite large client, and I had 2 people try and contact me saying, hey, I want to work with you. You reminded me, I saw you on LinkedIn, I saw your things. I couldn't believe this. I was like, I literally didn't have enough time in the day to take on more clients, and I was like, what a good problem to have, what a great problem to have, but also it was a problem at the time. But that was
but that's what personal branding does, and it's going to be more and more pairing with. So the 2 main things that will happen in the future is definitely personal branding and AI for obvious reasons, right? So what we're doing is pairing the 2. That's basically what we're doing. Yeah,
for sure. And I guess like finalizing, and people are welcome to come talk to Pedro, and I'm going to put the QR codes for both his original company, which is Complair, to learn about that, which is the visual effects kind of mentoring program, as well as his own mentoring program that I'm actually
No, I think there it's just if you guys are if you are entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs as you call it
I used to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and now I am an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I may be able to help you. So if you want to book a call, there's a QR code for that. And the other one is regarding Vox Brand. The platform is about to launch, and if you want to be on the waiting list, you just need to scan the QR code as well.
That was my complete bad. And then I just wanted to ask you, so there are people in here at various different stages of their journey. We always like to ask people if there's 3 tips that you would like to, reflecting back on your own journey, if you thought was really important that other people should maybe prioritize, or something for them to watch out for as they go through this journey for themselves. What do you reckon your kind of 3
Not sure
might
about
be?
3. Every time that there's like top 3 or top 5.
Different.
I would say 2 things that I had the conversation.
I asked for 3, but you can do 2. That's fine.
We had conversations about this. So there's one thing that is your main enemy, and there's another thing which is your main asset, right? So your main enemy in any entrepreneurial journey, and is there any entrepreneurs here in the crowd? Yeah? So you're probably going to relate to what I'm saying. So the main enemy is really your mind, because it's going to be like this. And the highs are going to feel really high, the lows are going to feel really low, and you're going to feel like on one day I'm doing everything great, everything works. Next day I'm a piece of shit, really, because nobody buys from me. I don't know what's going on. Why am I doing this in the first place?
We had this.
So we go. It's really so. It has only to do with your mind and the people that you surround yourself with, because this can be a very solo journey, as you were saying in the beginning. So you tend to think that. Let me take a step back, because all the decisions are you that you need to make them, even if you have a team, but you as a CEO, you are the one making the decisions, good, bad ones, lucky ones, you name it, right? It's you. And so when things are going great, you feel great. When things are going bad, you start doubting about your qualities as a business owner, or why are you doing this in the first place, or why is this not working? So you can go on this vortex of negativity and self-doubt and all that kind of stuff, and that can be very harmful on the personal level, on the family level, on the business level, and so that will be definitely your main enemy. So knowing that in advance can prepare you for what's to come. The other thing that I was saying, your main asset, right? The main asset, normally we say that it's about, like, time is the most important thing that we have in our lives, right? Because of course we have limited time on the planet, right? And that's true. But when it comes to business, in my opinion, the most important thing is momentum, not losing the momentum, because if you do things right, you're going to build momentum. So it's as if like you're pushing this rock up the hill, right? And it's really heavy, and it can take a while for you to get to the place where you want to be. But there will come a point in which you just need to do a little kick on that rock, and that will start rolling down without you pushing for it, right? So that's the momentum. But if you lose that momentum, because of all the energy that you put to get there, if you lose the momentum, it's going to take a long time, or it's going to be, it's going to take a lot of your energy to get back to that moment again. So that's why, once again, mentorship is important. Getting in the right rooms at the right time, in the right technique, with the right people, it's super important. As
like Rebel meetup groups as well?
Like, for example, this one.
Of
I just came from a ski trip, as you know, with 50 other entrepreneurs. And that was amazing because, it's just like, that's the type of group that you want to be part of, because you need to be part of that group. Otherwise, you're just going to leave all the good things, bad things in your mind. And before you become an entrepreneur, you know that there's like the entrepreneurial race happening. You're not part of it yet. But once you're part of that race, you now going to measure yourself against other people, comparing yourself against other people. And again, that's when your mind starts to play a big role, right? So those two things, as opposed to like the three top things, I think these two things are very important.
Okay, you were allowed to. That was a good two, yeah. All right.
Does that make sense, by the way, guys? Yeah?
Does anybody have any questions for Pedro that they'd like to ask about his journey?
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story.
Sure.
I've really enjoyed it, especially the last time your wife, your speech as well. I'm wondering what role AI is playing in your businesses other than automation.
Regarding automation?
No, other than automation.
Sorry, I didn't get the last part.
Do you use AI for other purposes other than automation? Because I assume that AI is playing a major role in automation, automating specific processes in businesses. But I'm wondering if there's anything else that you're using AI for as well.
It's mainly for processes. Yeah. So the way that I see business is, and by the way, for those of you that are in business or about to get in business, the ones that are in business, you're going to relate to this. If you're not in business yet and you want to get in business, as I told you as well, there's only one flywheel that you really need to nail down, which is marketing, sales, and fulfillment. You get a free ride on this, but after the first free ride, if you don't get this nailed down, it stops rolling, right? So if you have all of these pieces in a good way, one is going to feed the other is going to feed the next one, and it will go back to the beginning and it starts rolling automatically, right? Almost. So when it comes to our business, answering your question, we had automations in all these three. We have automations in all these three core areas, with and without AI. But AI, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to get the design right, even before any sort of automations, including or excluding AI. Most people, because of, people talk about AI all day, every day these days, right? I know a lot of people that sort of like invert this relationship, which is, okay, we're gonna do this automation first, and then we're gonna do this AI thing after. And you need first to have a system that is agnostic of all that kind of stuff, and then the automations with or without AI come to fulfill that design. If you have a flawed design, you will always be, playing catch up. In the beginning, it might feel very easy because you just have a couple of clients and your operations are not really, big anyway, which it shouldn't be in the beginning. But the more you grow, and if you don't tackle this, it's going to become a mess very quickly.
Okay, just one more question. I'm wondering if in your business course, business leadership course, do you is emotional intelligence and social intelligence part of the is it part of the
program?
Yes.
Yes, not with those names. So our program is very specific in terms of like the modules that we have, which is we call 4 pillars, which is always from a leadership point of view: technique, scripting, management, soft skills, and strategy. So those two would fall into the soft skills and strategy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
It's a good question too.
Yeah. Hello.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Sure.
I'm very intrigued. I'm a marketing professional, and I'm very intrigued in the behavioral science. I would like to ask you, from personal branding, what was the turning point that you realized that you were transforming your personal brand into content creator, influencer? What was the main decision that you perhaps made that you realized, oh, this is when I'm becoming now either an influencer or a content creator, where you are an authority in that niche?
Yeah, so I think just a previous point, because I think it's important, because when you say influencer, there's a big distinguish point that we need to make between what an influencer is and what a face of a brand is. An influencer, they don't provide value. They sell stuff, for other people, right? They say, okay, you should buy this because it's cool, or you should buy this because it's green, your glasses, for example, right?
Yeah.
They're not providing value, whereas when there's a face of a brand, this person provides value. There's something about her or him that is way more than just you should buy this, right? There's a story and mission that this person has. The influencer, they don't have necessarily speaking to have that thing in them. Although both of them influence the buying of a product, I understand that. But there's these two big distinguishing parts, I think is important to explain. In my case, because visual effects is it's a lot of people, but it's a small community. People knew me already, right? So I had that already in me, and people buy because it's me. It's me who created it. People know how different I am. When I was, but although this happened, we had to build a community as well. So that was like a fundamental step for us to sell and to have that successful launch. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a successful launch, independently of how well known I was to a small group of people. So that's when I guess developed my personal branding, because I started developing my personal branding from the very beginning regarding Compare, right? So things that we were doing was the YouTube live show, as I said before, at the same time that we were building the product, at the same time that we were doing like a bunch of stuff. It was like that crazy time that I was talking about. And so at that time we were doing the live show, which was very specific and every week. And within that live show, there was a segment that was about tips and tricks, but I was always on camera, so it was always me, right? And that specific section about tips and tricks, which was pre-recorded and pre-edited, so that was like part of the workload as well. It was from a technical point of view that most people never had, right? And that was my point of differentiation, I think, at that time, and people got it. Like, okay, this guy thinks differently. This guy goes about problems in a different way. And I was interviewing, so the last section of the live show was an interview with people in hierarchy places in the visual effects market as well. So I was well connected as well. So I think that's what people got from it. So answering your question, I started building my personal brand from the very beginning. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not with that conscience, you know what I mean? But I knew that I needed to create an audience, yes.
Are there any more questions for Pedro? But feel free to scan the codes, like you said, or come up and speak to him in the networking
Yeah,
part.
of course.
So let's go back to the networking, people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.